Hello, this is Nathan, better known as CrazyhermitDM, and this is my podcast, The Hermit's Homebrew. Joining me today is Brent from Langeministudio on Instagram as we talk about Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop gaming. All right, so we're back in the studio. Been a pretty good week or whatever this last week. How's your week been?
Not good, actually.
Really?
Breaking news here. I'm on day shift now. I'm going back to nights.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, one of my coworkers quit, and Human Resources is dragging their feet on background checks. So I go back to nights to cover his shift for about a month.
Oh, okay, so it's temporary.
It's temporary. Nothing changes. My days off stay the same. It's
Okay.
just
It won't affect our Fallout
no,
game.
it won't affect Fallout. It won't affect
Yeah.
D&D. It's just, hey, sorry to
Or-
tease you and
yeah.
try to screw your sleep schedule up again, but you're going back to nights. Uh, and I burned my finger making chicken nuggets.
It's all right. I threw out.
But
I'm getting old and threw out my back and went to a chiropractor for the first time today. The side news from, I think we mentioned it on our previous recording, is at our previous session, we had an actual fan contact me on Instagram asking for NPC, or as Toy Bar as an NPC. I'm working on the other group, but I did finish Toy Bar on and NPC'd them out.
as a legitimate NPC.
Yeah, the only difference between real Toy Bar and NPC Toy Bar is he has Maximilian's Earth and Grass, which I figured was a very Toy Bar spell.
Yeah, I could see. Yeah, is the hand coming out and doing stuff.
Yeah, and just slapping or grabbing.
Yeah, exactly.
But I put that on our Patreon, which I'm trying to build. That has not a lot of people on it at the moment, but I am doing blog posts on there. I'm creating content. I also did join Twitter as well, and that's taking off a little bit more with the help of, unfortunately, our missing other podcaster Kilk, who's not here today because he's just not feeling well,
Yeah.
and that dude never gets sick, so he's probably telling the truth.
And just because he wants to day drink, it's all good.
Yeah. Which is why half the reason why we missed session yesterday is because him and Rama or Vicky were not feeling well, and then you said Tove had some work and
business to catch up on.
yeah, reports with her work.
Yeah, with her job. So yeah, it kind of sucks that we had to cancel last night. Really looking forward to it, especially after how the last session ended and
Oh yeah,
killed a demon, and a demon is now stuck in the sword, and
yeah,
wasn't really sure that was going to happen.
yeah. We talked a little bit about that last session, and then we're talking a little bit off mic about how I've kind of statted that, and it's our own version of Black Razor, and going to be in our campaign world. It's Soul Razor.
I'm so curious to see what this
Yeah,
does.
I won't reveal anything on air. I'll let you see it first because it is your sword. But make sure to follow that Patreon or whatever. I will say to anyone that's listening, it starts off at $4, and then the VIP stuff is like $20. That VIP stuff is really like helping the podcast out. You get like an hour a month with me, or if you don't want to talk with me on video or chat, we can text or whatever on the Discord. Kilk is almost done with a private Discord for the podcast. But I did want to talk about a couple of things that are going on within our community. But I want to get on one little side tangent before we really get on topic.
Okay.
It was actually something I listened to when I was coming in today. I was listening to a podcast. Funny enough, did you know that, how George Lucas sold off basically Lucasfilms to Disney for shares?
Oh, yeah.
He's the biggest shareholder at Disney.
George Lucas is the biggest shareholder of Disney.
Yeah, he's the biggest individual shareholder at Disney. So he technically has the biggest say of the empire, of that he sold it off to.
How can Disney get away with? I mean, why would Disney do that? Because they have to have some sort
I
of.
don't think at the time, 15 years ago, that he was the biggest shareholder, though. But now,
so this could be like a Bruce Wayne situation to where it's all very complicated, but
I own the bank.
reputable trusts and corporations, he could conceivably own Disney.
Yeah.
Oh man.
He has at least the biggest amount of say.
Individual shares. Oh, that is crazy.
Yeah.
All right.
Which it's that, and like you were talking about with Bruce Wayne, it's the end of Batman versus Superman, where Superman's like, "How'd you get the house back?" Why on the bank?
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. Well, do you own Star Wars? No, I
No.
own Disney. Oh, okay.
But
Okay. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. So I wanted to just share that, at least over air. I thought it was a very interesting
Yeah,
concept,
that's
and
very
I
cool.
did confirm it through Google before I came in.
Okay, all right, sources. Yeah,
Oh yeah. But
that's hilarious.
the other cool thing that's coming out is Lego has signed a thing with Wizards of the West Coast. They've come out with like a mimic treasure chest like Lego thing.
I saw that.
And then Lego has a Red Dragon's Tail with like a with an adventure that actually comes with the set, and it's like has this big old red dragon like Lego thing.
Yeah, I was looking at
The
that. There's a red dragon. There's a beholder,
mhm.
displacer beast, owlbear, gelatinous cube. I think there's like a red ooze
You
underneath one
could,
of the stairways.
I mean, it's still expensive. I mean,
Oh yeah,
the red dragon thing's price tag of
yeah,
$360.
but it's huge.
I
It's
mean,
usually like
if
two,
you
three
are
and a half
looking
feet
though
long.
to make Legos like D&D Lego sets though for your
Yeah,
thing, it's now oh, it's always an option really,
yeah,
but
and Lego's actually a really good idea if if you're like from our generation, I've got a freaking tub back in my mom and dad's house in the attic
mhm.
that's full of old Lego. And I mean, yeah, those are a really good building material for just like ad hoc like terrain stuff.
I think my mom, before she passed, said like out in their shed, she said that there was Legos out there for if I ever had a grandkid, which I don't have yet, but maybe in the future. If my siblings haven't grabbed it all up because this is all old Legos.
Okay.
Speaking of like my family and like generational things, what you're
Hmm.
mentioning though was like, so for my dad's birthday here on March 9th, me and my siblings all basically went in on a PS5 together,
Okay.
got him a PS5 and Baldur's Gate 3.
Yes.
And I had like the most like surreal moment talking to him last week because I try and ever since my mom's passing, I try and check in with him once a week to see how he's doing or
Hmm.
go see him at least every so often, hopefully. And because he was married to her for 40 years, and I do worry about him, and
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
mental health is a big thing.
Yeah.
But I was like, "So how are you doing with Baldur's Gate?" And he just like went on this passionate because he's a gamer. He has like
Okay.
2,400 hours into Fallout 4.
Yeah. Oh, kindred spirit.
Um, and he's a big gamer, like, but he's just like, so yeah, I'm playing a drow druid. Oh, a dark elf. No, drow. I'm like, yeah, dark elf, same thing. He's
Yeah,
like,
same
no,
thing.
drow. I'm like, okay,
Oh.
okay.
Like, no, say it right. Okay.
Yeah, he
Respect.
corrected me twice, and
Okay.
I just okay, drow. And he's playing a druid, but like the most surreal moment of it was he's talking about his group or whatever, like all and all that, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun, and like I've come up with a good strategy with my group of how to take out like." Because we go through that goblin camp and I took them out one by one. And I'm like, well, what'd you do? He goes, well, as a druid, I shifted into a spider and then I cast web upon all these things that immobilizes them. And then my melee people just go in and bash them. I'm just like, and I'm just like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
I did not expect you to pick up that strategy just like that. That's better than most D&D players.
Yeah, that's actually really, yeah, it's like, oh, just drop fireball and move on. I mean, he's playing a druid.
Yeah.
But oh wow, that's super awesome.
And I just like had the biggest smile on my face listening to my dad tell me about his combat strategies in Dungeons and Dragons. And then he tells me, "Oh, I like this one much more. I roll much higher than this than I did when I tried to play like second edition back in the late '80s."
Oh my God. Yeah, that would be kind of a surreal moment. Just, is this really happening?
It's like my dad's enjoying Dungeons and Dragons. I've played this for like 15 years, and
Yeah, exactly. Oh, dang. Okay, that's awesome. It's kind of like my wife will sit there and will talk to her mom about it. And I'm sitting there kind of cringing a little bit because my mother-in-law, I apologize, mother-in-law, she's religious, not too she's not like, Bible thumping, burn them all, she's not
yeah.
that way, but she's one that will just like offhandedly make comments like watching TV or something. She'll just go, "Oh, they're going to hell because they made fun of God." I'm sorry, what? So when
So
she's like when my wife is talking to her about it, I'm kind of going, "Oh, do you
they're
really
not
mean?"
the zealots from Silent Hill, basically.
No, 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 absolutely not. And it's kind of one of those moments to where we were over at their house a couple of years ago talking about it, and I was really uncomfortable with it, but it was actually a really good conversation because she was genuinely like concerned for our souls. Like she grew up in, the Satanic Panic and all of
Yeah.
that. And she heard all of the stories of, the sacrifices and the drugs and all that. We just reassured like, no, this is fantasy. This is make believe. No, this is not real. This is pen and paper with little plastic figurines running around. We're rolling dice. Like, no, this is we may say things like, we have clerics of different gods or this person's
Yeah.
worshiping a demon, but like no, we reassure that yeah, like watching a movie, it's the same stuff.
Oh,
You
exactly.
can watch a movie, you can suspend your disbelief, and you can enjoy the story and you enjoy the characters without accepting that you're trying to say this is 100% real.
Yeah.
And so she felt a lot better after that because she's worried about
And
us. Yep.
the nice thing is, or whatever, you can go to her and just like, hey, what's your favorite movie? And then she'd give that example. What's your favorite character in that movie?
Yeah.
And then you're like, you can play that in my game.
Yep.
I guarantee you, I can make that character for you.
Guaranteed. Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, it's been kind of the conversations that I've had with the hobby and people that look at me weird and I go, yeah, I play D&D, what? And more often than not, it is like the worst has been mild curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one's flat out like looked down at me and sneered and called me a nerd and stuff like that. So and a lot of people that I work with, I work in a very institutionalized setting. Most of them are like, "Oh, okay, that's cool," and then we move on. Others have been like, "Okay, they've doubled down and they've gotten really like, okay, so what do you do? What is this?"
Mm-hmm. I've had those
Yeah,
people too.
yeah,
I mean, we've also been like, tabletop gaming nerds. The people that are our interns and our producers are gamers as well.
yeah.
And when I go and tell people about this, I tell them, we do 30-minute episodes. This is like tabletop gaming. The average like drive to and from work is statistically 27 and a half minutes.
Oh wow, okay,
So like the goal initially, we might be changing that a little bit for a little bit longer episodes, but is for tabletop gaming to and from work.
I like it.
But you and me have both been playing for such a long time that
Hmm.
just like we, you know, and not a lot of people like get that now that are coming into the hobby is like this wasn't socially accepted. There was times like, and I don't mean to sound like a gamer boomer, of like, listen, I was a nerd before Disney made it cool.
I was playing D&D before Matt Mercer made it cool.
Well, before even like Disney or whatever, when they
Yeah.
really delved into the superhero things, it
Yep.
became a lot more socially acceptable
Yeah.
to that. And there's like, it's so awkward now with like when you go on Facebook or these social medias or like people that you went to like school with, because I'm older. I've been out of school for 20 plus years,
Yep.
and these people are having their kids, or they have younger kids that are like 6 or 7, and they're dressing up superheroes, and I'm just like, you made fun of me for liking this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, but and I do thank
And
Marvel for doing that.
yeah,
They did it right. They had good writers, they had good casting,
yeah,
they had good directors, and they did really good making superheroes cool again.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting those people down by any means. It is very like off-putting, or at
Yeah.
least surreal, of like, you made fun of me for all this and now
Hmm.
you're supporting all this. It's like, now you're seeing why I like this
Yeah.
20 years ago,
Yeah. Exactly.
why I use this as an escape.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's comforting at the same time while it's like surreal, but it's definitely like it's a different time.
Oh yeah. One of my favorite games was Borderlands 2.
Yeah.
And in the last DLC that came out to where they were playing essentially
uh
bunkers and badasses.
yeah, it was D&D.
It was Borderlands D&D, and one of the main characters, Lilith, was having a really hard time with the muscle bound jock Mr. Torg coming in to play, and as playing the game, I kept like, why does she have such a big deal about this? And she kind of like got mad at like Mr. Torg coming in, like, oh, we're gonna do this instead. Wow. And she was like, knock it off. She was like, no, take this seriously. And she eventually pretty much she was gatekeeping. And she said, "No, this is my game. This is, this was my hobby.
Mhm.
I suffered for my enjoyment. Why should I let someone just walk in?"
Yeah.
And they had a really good conversation about it. I'm like, holy, they just talked about gatekeeping and like and how toxic it can be. I'm like, dang, Borderlands 2 had some dang good writing.
Yeah. And that's exactly the point that I'm trying to make is it's like part of me wants to like, no, you don't
Yeah,
get to like
you don't get off so easy.
you don't get to like that. You made fun of me, but then it's just like I've over the last, 5, 6 years, I've really come up and as a person, as a dungeon master, as a gamer, especially, just like, all right, now you're seeing what I like.
Yeah,
You know, I hope you like. I hope your kids or whatever get to whatever they condemn or get condemned about, get to feel the same feeling of, you know, this is now socially acceptable to be
yeah,
this way,
yep, absolutely. So
or
it's good. It's good to see that there people, and that's that whole growth as a person. So I'm really glad to see that there's more people accepting it, which is also why a couple episodes ago you talked about the golden age of gaming.
yeah.
I am hopeful that it's going to still keep going, and it's
Well,
because of stuff like that. So
and,
that's awesome.
and yeah, we've talked about this a couple
Oh yeah,
episodes.
absolutely.
It I've so the golden it ain't even like the golden age of gaming so much. It's possibly just the golden age of D&D holding the door open for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's strictly just because of corporate decisions that unfortunately have led to a lot of bad decisions that have ostracized themselves from their own fans. And now
Mm-hmm.
you have a lot of these third party content creators that wow,
Doing some
I
really
like
good stuff.
really good stuff. And these people have basically really brought up D&D.
Mm-hmm.
The Matt Colvilles, the Matt Mercers,
Mm-hmm.
the Brandon Mulligans, or how you say his last? Is it Brendan Mulligan? That's how you
There it
say it.
is. There we go.
Sorry, it's not Brandon.
Yeah.
Apologies, fans. Um, but it's like you have these people like that have raised your hobby up,
Mm-hmm.
and now you've ostracized a lot of your fan base to where they can take their own fan base with them. You'll still have them,
Yeah.
but they're not going to point to what they're making and
Yeah.
go that way.
And in my opinion, this is kind of like a lost opportunity for
Hmm.
D&D as a whole because it opened the door for so many people. Now it seems like they're trying to guard the door.
Hmm.
And it's like, no, don't do that. Open the door, say, "Hey, here's how you do it. Go have fun." And oh, hey, you're making this. Hey, you're making that. Home brews or your own systems. Anything within the open gaming license, it should be supported
Yeah,
because all that does is it drives your positive notoriety and it can just keep you going well into the future.
yeah,
So, it's kind of disheartening, but I'm hoping they learn from this
yeah,
and continue being a great game.
yeah. And that's about the best you can say it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just crazy, just the evolution of this hobby and the way it's turned, and
Mhm.
even within the last like year or whatever.
Oh yeah.
The more serious like topic that I wanted to talk about because it was mentioned in a couple of like YouTube videos that I watched, and I like wanted to kind of get our own input on this. Is like I wrote a Patreon blog post on basically the pros and cons of AI in
Mm-hmm.
our hobby and in our community. There, while there's like many negatives to AI, especially with AI art, which I've learned a little bit more about, and it's a little off-putting. What's your feeling when it comes to AI being used with D&D? Like, your one big negative when it comes to AI, and what's your one big positive when it comes to AI, in your opinion, that when it comes to our tabletop gaming community?
I would have to say the negative I'm most afraid of is people using the AI as a crutch
Hmm.
to where it's now becoming less like personally creative.
Yeah.
To where if you can have an AI go in and say, generate me an adventure for five fifth level characters with kobolds. Okay, cool. But and then it takes away the personal touch that comes from say like a DM and the players interacting together with a DM, you know your characters, you know your players, you know what they like, you know
Mm.
what their habits are, their all the little nuances of that
Yeah.
personal interaction. If you just go with an AI, it's going to generate you something very generic,
Yep.
unless you tell it specifically. Well, then at that point in time, just do it yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
And you and me, like you've been in the hobby for 2 decades. I've been
Yep.
in it for 15 years. I actually like from that point of view, like for the people with less experience, they'd probably need a more detailed point of view, but you and me can probably run off that generic information and twist it and make it our own thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Which now goes to, I would say, the positive
Yeah.
is if you use the AI as a stepping stool,
Hmm.
that's good. Yes, put in, I'm not saying shut it down. It's terrible. It's the devil.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead and generate that adventure with the kobolds. But take it, look at it, apply your spin on it, apply your flavor, and then tailor it to your players.
Yeah.
So that if they're more interested in traps and puzzles, okay, you can put more of that in there. If they're more interested in combat, all right. If it's more social, cool. But tailor it to your individual characters and your individual players to their own personal skills and the skills of their players to make it a more enjoyable and more inclusive adventure for all of them.
And that's where I take like Chat GPT or a couple of other AI tools that I've used is like I consider it just well we've been talking about Fallout a lot the last couple of episodes.
Woo!
I consider it a workbench.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's
It's a
how I
marketing
use it.
tool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's a
Hmm.
tool to add mods to my game,
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
that's how I use it.
Hmm.
It certainly has, like you mentioned, it's added. I've added a lot more puzzles, as you've noticed, basically
Yeah.
the last dozen
Yeah. Oh
sessions.
yeah. You have. I've noticed that.
And
Yeah.
that's because I go through. It's like list me off this, this, and this, and I'll pick up on one, and I'm like, okay, give me more details about this one, and then I'll start twisting it, and then I'll add my own. It's basically like a cut of meat at the store, and then I add my own seasonings to it to, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah, and that's the good part of AI, especially if you get like writer's block or you're just, I don't know where we're going with this. AI can be a powerful tool to help you out.
Mhm. And I met one of my weaker things of being a DM, and it's one of my, I don't know if it's a flaw, but it's one of my weaker things is I have a very bad time coming up with puzzles on the fly.
Uh,
I cannot do that whatsoever. That is
yeah.
one of my weaker things. So yeah, I've used AI to help me kind of raise that up. And there's been a couple of good puzzles where I've gotten their ideas, and then I've definitely just like seasoned the meat, as
Oh yeah.
I've used that metaphor, and made it my, made my own Caribbean jerk chicken.
Ooh, as long as it's not jerk prunes.
Oh,
What Hermes calls it, Jamaican Drano.
oh God. But like, I suppose for me, the the thing I was reading one article about it, and the biggest like, and I mentioned this in the blog post just briefly. I just kind of basically go over like a paragraph and a half of like the pro, like three pros, three cons, just kind of a very generalized thing, something to kind of generate a conversation with over on Patreon when we start getting that traffic over there. Uh, and that's there are people that are, that don't want to DM, where you don't have a group that DMs, especially with the VTT stuff and the online stuff.
Mhm.
And there's gonna come a time where you have a dungeon master bot, and
I was thinking about that, and if done and implemented correctly, I think it would be really cool.
it would be really cool. I think, to me though, that's still a negative.
It can be, yes, absolutely.
I think as a dungeon master myself,
Hmm. Hmm.
I've played as a player. I've done the dungeon master thing. I think there should be that person. You don't want to forever DM or whatever, but dungeon mastering is a very good skill set. I can't even express really think about it, even though I've put a lot of thought into this answer of like how much tabletop gaming or dungeon mastering or that has helped with my improvisation, my problem solving skills in real
Hmm.
life. We've both been in management positions
Yep.
where I'm sure our problem solving skills, especially when shenanigans happen at work, and they're just like, it's probably a little bit quicker than some other people because,
Oh yeah.
and they're just like, how do you, and you can't tell them. It's like when they ask, like, well, how'd you come up with that idea? It's like, you would be surprised.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a couple
Yeah,
decades.
you just say life experience and you move
Yeah.
on. And yeah, that's a very good point. Is me personally, I would always want to play with a human dungeon master,
Hmm.
but I also want to stop the idea of the forever DM.
Yep.
If a DM needs to take a break, if they want to be a player, okay, cool. Do a couple of sessions of, bot DM, and now that DM gets to be a player with their players, and they can vent that frustration of this is how it feels when
Yeah.
someone throws a monkey wrench into your plans.
There are people out there in the community that feel just like, well, if you're just having a bot DM for you, you're just basically playing a video game. And while I can see their point, I
Yeah,
don't fully agree. Uh, but that would be the negative side of it. The positive side to me are, especially we live in the Midwest in
yeah.
Nebraska and Iowa, where there's a lot of rural areas,
Oh yeah,
or you have the farm kids that just the nearest, neighbors 20 odd miles away or
yeah,
whatever.
exactly. Yeah,
And let's say that kid is even, that or town's an hour away. And
yeah.
I
The
doubt
nearest
that
local friendly gaming
I
store
doubt
is an hour away.
I doubt, and that's even if they have that sort of thing or whatever. Like
Yeah.
my girlfriend's from the Grand Island area.
Oh,
From
okay.
what I can see, there are some gaming shops there, but there's not like a major tabletop gaming presence there whatsoever.
Okay.
And that's kind of sad. That's where like the online stuff and the VTT comes in, and that's where I think like if you just have this one kid that want, and I think that's where Wizards is kind of pushing with the more AI stuff that they're probably trying to implement, in my opinion. I can't confirm that or whatever, but I can see them going this way of, having this kid that has no ability to reach out to anyone physically, but you can talk to this chat bot or this dungeon master bot, and you can have that game from where you're at.
Yeah, get that engagement and get the connectivity and all of that from, yeah, a
Yeah.
pretty much so far untapped resource. But my question is how much is that going to work for them?
Yeah.
Because I don't want it to go
Mhm.
a wrong way now, because now everyone's just, I don't want everyone to start playing D&D on a computer.
Yeah.
My I like
But like,
I like sitting around a table, playing with friends, getting that human interaction. That's not at work.
have you had a chance to play online at all?
No, I have not.
I've
I've been kind of
when
avoiding it.
COVID when COVID first started or whatever, like when me and we'll because they've been on the podcast, I know like Kilk and Nick and all that. We all played online for about probably about 3 or 4 sessions.
Oh, okay.
And that's when the game started fizzling out just because of COVID and other like personal issues and all that. It just for me, it just doesn't have that same feel. I did not get that. It sounds like I'm a drug addict or anything, but I did not get that same social high off the interaction I
Yeah.
got from having you 2 chairs down or you sitting next to me or like having Rama on the other side
Yeah.
or whoever is at that table
Hmm. Yeah.
and just like getting those moments that you get
Oh
playing
yeah.
tabletop game. I could list off examples, but there's like just so many. We'd be
Oh
here.
yeah. Yeah. I played some of the only online gaming that I've ever done is I played Destiny and Destiny 2.
Mhm.
I had a fire team that I would play on there, and they were guys that I knew from work, and that was really cool. I enjoyed that. And it made me enjoy the game more because I was playing with people that I knew.
Mhm.
I also have to admit, playing in person at a table, looking people in the eye, is, in my opinion, the superior experience.
Yeah. I think that's just where we get our highs,
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
because I tried to explain this to my girlfriend's mom a while back, and I've explained it to other people because I go, I'm a gamer, and they're, oh, what video games do you play? I'm like, I'm not too much into the
Yeah.
video games as much, although I have been playing Baldur's Gate 3 here and there, and
Mhm.
a couple other games. I am into like Marvel Strike Force on my phone and all that, even though that can sometimes be a money pit if they really hook you with the right deal. But like I tell them, it's like I'm essentially a board gamer. If you don't know what tabletop RPGs are, I'm a board gamer.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
I like sitting at a table and playing with my friends and my family or whoever is
Yeah.
across from me. Hey, tabletop gamers. Thank you for watching this episode of the Hermit's Homebrew. We come out with new episodes every Wednesday. Remember to like, subscribe, and share with your friends as we continue to level up and grow.